I can't believe they're wearing suits in the summer in Miami. It's Cris Carter. It's Nick Wright. It's a little warm here.
Wait, hold on.
What's happening?
Your shoes. I'm
What?
dying for your shoes.
Oh, thank you, Kristine.
Those are very, very cool and very color coordinated.
I appreciate that.
I usually like Chris's game, his fashion game, but you take it today.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Good to see you as well, Colin.
Good to see you guys. By the way, you're a Florida guy, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
You've lived here a lot. You had
25 years.
So you built your whole business here. You've got high school camps and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, part of my business was built here, part in Atlanta, but yes, a lot of resources in South Florida.
South Florida is an amazing part of the country. I was saying this yesterday. I like college football, but when I come to Miami, first thing I think of is the beach, and the second thing I think of is the Hurricanes. And you obviously know all about that program.
Yes.
Mark Richt, by the way, is having an unbelievable recruiting class. It looks like Miami is on the way back, or am I jumping ahead of myself?
Well, right now, if you look at a lot of the national rankings, Miami is at the top of the charts. It's a lot of people would be shocked, but those in the business know. First, Mark Richt, quality person.
Yes.
He's also from Boca Raton, which is basically 45 miles north of here on the other side of Fort Lauderdale. So if they can keep the kids in these two counties, Broward County and Dade County. Dade County is here in Miami. Broward County just a little bit north. There is no two counties in the United States that produce more Division I football players. So if he can just keep the kids here, then the results would be those 17, 19 commitments they have and them being in the top five, with the program not being a top five program.
Yeah, I've always felt that college football feels like a small town sport. Miami makes it feel city. So I always loved the Miami Hurricanes. All right, here we go. So Paul George is now going to play with Russell Westbrook.
Yeah.
It's not going to work.
Oh.
And then Paul George will become a Laker. It's not going to work. But do you think it will?
Paul George is going to become a Laker.
Yeah.
You're sure of that?
Yeah.
Because Paul
he's a
George
psychic
ain't sure
now.
of that. Paul George today came out and said, listen, this thing's overblown. Let's see how this year plays out. And you know what I know about every 20-something-year-old man in America? They don't know what they're doing a week from now, much less a year from now. Which reminds me, the last time we spoke, Paul George was a topic because Danny Ainge was leaking. It was going to take every pick he's ever had, plus Isaiah Thomas and Jay Crowder, to get Paul George. It turned out it took Victor Oladipo's terrible contract and the second best Sabonis in league history to get Paul George. And so now I would just like to give Danny Ainge's props. It's very hard on him. His strategy of acquiring all-stars who played for Brad Stevens in college. He's 1 for 1, but unfortunately for him, there's only one in league history.
Right.
And now what Paul George said today was, listen, we make the conference finals. We have a good season. I'd be dumb for leaving. Now, maybe he does go to Los Angeles, but maybe if he was on any really good team this year, he stays there.
Yeah.
One of those teams could have been Boston, but I know, listen, Celtics ain't interested in those good players right now.
I don't think
It
this is
literally was impossible for him to go to the East. We know that.
I don't think it's Paul George. The question really is about him. I think we should be asking ourselves about Russell Westbrook because Russell's more important. This season was the biggest of Russell's life.
Yeah.
Why? Because he lost KD and with the beef that was going on between them. So for me, it's more important, how does Russell react? Because if he doesn't react in a bringing in a Paul George, it's going to be critical to the rest of his career. Or he's going to be like Kobe Bryant, where no superstar wants to play with him, but without the cachet, without the championships. So for me, it's really important how Russell treats this because they could package themselves a number of different places. If he likes playing with Russell, I believe that changes the number of places they can go to, and also OKC could also keep both of them
Well,
there.
and Colin, you're saying it's not going to work, and I get it. I understand that you do not necessarily like the style of Russell's game, even though I think you like Russell. Like,
Yeah, good person and all.
but what, aside from Golden State, is there any team in the West we're sure has a better top two? Like, are we sure James Harden and Chris Paul, at this phase in Chris Paul's career, are a better top two than Russell Westbrook and Paul George? I'm sure San Antonio does not have a better top two. Kawhi Leonard and who?
Right.
Is Danny Green now their second best player? It ain't LaMarcus Aldridge. Not with what we saw from him in the postseason. And at basketball, we only got 5 players on the court. If you got 2 of the 12 best in the world on your team, you're in pretty damn good shape.
Well, the problem with OKC last year, even with Russell playing the way the other guys were so bad.
Terrible.
And their inability to be able to shoot the ball from the three-point line, that just hampers both of their game.
I said this earlier, I like aggressive. I think in sports, I think patience works in research and development. Be patient for years and years. But I think there's certain businesses like Silicon Valley and sports where aggressive wins, and I just like Houston being aggressive and Boston's being more patient, so I want to see Houston win. So Aaron Judge last night is, first of all, he looks like a star. Sometimes it's just DNA. I mean, he's like 6'7", he squats 500. I don't even know if there's a comp for him. When I was a kid growing up, there was a guy named Dave Winfield.
Yes.
Dave Winfield was big. He's not this big.
Yeah, he got drafted by the NBA, also got drafted by the by
MLS
the
or
NFL.
something.
Yeah, great athlete from University of Minnesota.
Okay, so I watched him last night, and he had balls hitting off the glass here. What am I supposed to make of that? Is he the next LeBron?
It's amazing. You know, we've moved to New York. Friday night, I went to Yankee Stadium, and I watched him in person for the first time, and I really thought that I was a kid looking at the book about Paul Bunyan. Remember we saw the book about Paul Bunyan, how big he was and how little in his forearms and everything? I mean, he is an extraordinary, huge human being. Just look at his from his kneecap to his hip bone, all right? He's ginormous. It's like a LeBron or some special freakish athlete now playing baseball. The thing that I like is he's been true to his sport. He always wanted to be a great baseball player, and hadn't been detracted to playing the other sports when he has the rare body. You know how phenomenal he is when you start asking, could this guy play another sport?
Oh, of course.
And he transfers the size. Because there's a lot of guys walking around life just big for no dang on good reason.
Right.
Now, he transfers the size into power, and now with technique, he's changed his whole batting, the way he's looking at it, the way he's holding his front leg in there. And I know Joe Girardi, the manager there, and he say he's duplicated Derek Jeter off the field. He has the same personality. You can build your franchise around him. So the only thing more extraordinary than his overall ability, they say, is his personality and his approach to day and being great.
I was so ready to be all about this thing until you said the last comment you said. So let me give Judge his props first. Not only does baseball need this, they need him on that team.
Sure.
Aaron Judge, the exact same guy on the Cincinnati Reds. It does not matter for baseball the way it matters with the Yankees.
Agreed.
It is the overwhelming dominant team in the sport as far as if you have a star, what it can mean for the league. And I'm happy for him. And he seems like an amazing young person. But you said, is he the next LeBron? I heard Skip and Shannon today comparing him to LeBron. Aaron Judge is 25 years old. 25 years old. LeBron James has been to an NBA Finals. He had won an MVP, was the most hyped athlete ever, and he had actually exceeded the hype. Aaron Judge last season had 84 at-bats and struck out 42 times. So I am super thrilled that this is happening.
Right.
I think this year on FS1 and Fox, we have the ALCS, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I would love for Aaron Judge and the Yankees to be up there with him having 58 home runs.
Yes.
I need to see a little more, and by a little more, I mean like a decade straight of this before I can compare him to the greatest athlete I've ever seen. But it's unbelievable. The hype last night, we saw the ratings on the other network. It was because of him.
I think also when you start making the comparison to LeBron, don't give us the 14 years LeBron, because this kid's got 30 home runs at the All-Star break.
Right, but he's 25 years old.
I understand that. But size, speed, and power, he's so unique that you had to grab LeBron.
By the way,
now you're saying, well, we're reaching too far. But that's how far and that's how unique his talent is.
By the way, it should be noted, Wade Boggs, 6 years in the minors. Phil Niekro, Hall of Famer, 7. Mike Schmidt was a 260 hitter. Baseball's just harder. And first of all, you go into the minor league system. You have a 30-year roster's pitchers, and you don't hear about quarterbacks doing Tommy John surgery.
I don't think it's harder. Actually, to make it to the major leagues, it's easier because you can specialize. I mean, you can just be fast. You can't catch, you can't bat, and you can get to the major leagues. You can be a great outfielder and hit 200, still make it to the major league. You can pitch 2 innings. You can have a tremendous curveball, still make it to the major league. All the major leagues are hard to get there, but trying to say that Major League Baseball is harder than the other ones? No, because they're riding on buses? No, that's just the way the system is.
Hold on, but what if we edited it slightly? Harder to become great at it. Not necessarily harder to make the majors, but harder to become great at it.
Well,
I think that's
I think greatness is a relative term. It's the easiest to get rich at. So what difference do it make if you're great if I'm rich? Because they make a lot of people rich, and we think that they're great players because they're rich, and they're really not great.
So last night, Lonzo Ball missed a summer league game. Social media outrage. Like, the guy's a quitter. Like, that's a star. When you miss a summer league game, the coaching staff says, yeah, you and Brandon Ingram, go rest a little bit. People go nuts. What do you make of the expectations?
Well, first thing I made of it is I saw one of the most scurrilous things about the NFL polluting the best sport in the world, the NBA, and that is the anonymous scout on another team talking trash about a player.
Oh, he did?
Oh, an anonymous scout told, I forget which reporter, if he were on my team, I'd be disgusted with him. Shut up, anonymous scout. It's a summer league game. And I get it. I think Chris is going to disagree with me on this, but as we evolve as people and we evolve our understanding of things, we are smarter and we are more cautious with important assets. Brandon Ingram and Lonzo Ball are very important assets, and even if it makes the old timers or the guys that played through stuff makes them mad, sitting out a summer league game because you might potentially maybe have a nagging something is smart.
Right.
Smart and tough don't necessarily, they don't have to go against each other, but they're not always the exact same thing. But you're right about the fact that, yeah, there's a lot of talk surrounding the number 2 pick of the draft.
Well, I think there's a couple things here. Number one is through the summer league, he's already had a couple injuries before they start playing.
Sure.
So now they've seen him in a couple games. I don't have a problem with him sitting out. What I want to watch is, as these kids develop, Ingram and Ball, Magic Johnson. When Magic Johnson was a rookie, we saw what he did his first year. My brother was drafted by the Lakers in his second year. My brother went to training camp with them, played a full season with them. He told me that Magic Johnson won every drill, won every race, if they was driving from somewhere to lunch, he'd drive his car the fastest to get there. He was so competitive. So with me in managing these young assets, it's hard to try to raise an athlete and try to change the prototype because Magic wouldn't have set out the game, but he made Ingram sit out. So the next game, he has Ball sit out when he wouldn't have sat out. Now, this is the problem that I believe that great athletes have in managing, and that's the problem, one of the problems Magic had when he was a coach of the Lakers. No, they're not Magic Johnson, but we have certain ways to train athletes. You can't break that mold just because these kids are young. Go back and look at LeBron when he played in the summer league. Played in every game, got great numbers. You get better by playing. Colleges are practicing less. So now people think that you can develop a skill by practicing less? No. Now, if you have the potential to get hurt, I do understand that. But Magic is going to have to manage what he knows works in his head compared to this new generation that might not want to push themselves beyond what you think you can do to reach greatness.
I think that's crazy. These young guys.
No, you think I'm crazy because I said it. Which one? Because I need to know because my next comment will be based on.
You're crazy.
Okay.
I think what you said is crazy. Does that equivocate enough? Just hold on a second.
Yes.
These kids play more basketball than anyone. The young guys in the NBA right now are coming into the league having played more basketball.
So what about Bo Jackson, Deion Sanders, those guys that played 3 sports? They might play more basketball, but they don't participate in athletics more than we did.
Man,
would you say that's correct?
CC, these guys play.
Would you wait? Answer the question first. Would you say that's correct?
Participate in more athletics. Overall athletics, sure. But what I also know is this: when Magic was playing, he wasn't as a high schooler playing 9 AAU games in a 4-day tournament.
Oh, he's right.
All of these kids did. And the NBA guys, I just saw DeMar DeRozan at the Compton Park. I apologize. The Drew League.
Yes.
He's playing there against a high schooler. These guys are playing basketball for free year round. And you made a good point about that. Maybe why Magic wasn't the best coach, because he couldn't put himself in lesser players' shoes. It's maybe why Luke Walton's the perfect coach. Luke Walton wasn't any great player, but he understands what these guys need.
But Magic came down from his seat next to Luke and them and told them pull the plug on Ingram. Not Luke. I would have understood that. But Magic, I know Magic. And he would have to change his temperament. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He would have totally changed his temperament towards training to be able to do that. And I'm just saying, I'm not saying I'm correct. I'm just saying it's something we should watch.
Do you guys don't think it has anything to do with De'Aaron Fox?
Because Fox beat him up in the tournament, I don't.
I think it got zero to do with it.
I think that
Fair.
I do think that certainly if Lonzo was not absolutely 100%, you don't want to put him in a position against the guy who just beat him badly in the last game.
I was fired up to watch it.
I think that 2 for 15 in the first game, and then he bounced back with I think the 2 for 15 did have something to do with, okay, because we have seen him, he did play better. This might be the better time to give him rest, because they couldn't rest him in game number 2. No. After that.
No, it's funny. This argument's always funny when people say they love the players in the 80s. And to that, I would say, let's say that knowing what we know about Rick Mahorn, Rick Mahorn was a tough guy, or Ben Wallace.
Yes.
If they were available in the draft and your team took them number 1, remember, everybody's like, oh, I love those 80s guys. If Charles Oakley was available in this draft, knowing he can't shoot, and you took him number 1, fans would go nuts.
Man, people that tell me the basketball is better in the 80s, go back and watch the last NBA Finals the Celtics and Lakers played. The 2 best teams of the era. First 3 minutes of, I think, Game 3, it's 0-0 at the 9-minute mark. Kevin McHale's putting up the saddest jump hooks I've ever seen. But Barkley, who played in the 80s, says Kevin McHale was the hardest player to guard ever. Kevin McHale is an 11th man right now. And that's not an indictment on, you got to play in the era you're in. I get that. But they are almost playing a different sport.
Oh, God, yeah.
There
It is
was no
definitely a
outside
different
defense.
The thing I try to tell people, if you're really going to be a fan of sports, you have to adjust your eye about every 8 to 10 years.
A good point.
That's the only way you're going to ever be able to appreciate people for what they do. And stay out of the decade-to-decade comparisons, because it makes it even harder.
Okay, so how big, think about this. How big is Aaron Judge?
6'7", 260-something.
270.
Babe Ruth was my height and 9 pounds heavier. I am essentially, let's just say Babe Ruth got sick over the weekend and vomited.
Right.
Monday, I'd be Babe Ruth. Like if he had a bad weekend and got sick and was just, and he lost like 7 pounds, I'm Babe Ruth. Think how scrawny I am. Like everybody's bigger now. It's a different world. Babe Ruth looked huge in 1921.
It is based on the food. We know there's more stuff in the food. Human beings are bigger, but when you go from sport to sport, you cannot say the skill level is better.
Oh, ma'am, I'm telling you right now. Hold up, CC.
You have so much more technology to get better.
CC.
Information
The overall shooting is better.
Well, that's skill.
Yeah.
What is that?
That's it.
Bob Cousy was considered a magician.
I mean, Bob
because
Cousy,
he went behind his back
you
once.
act like I'm here.
Cousy couldn't make a good high school team today.
Listen, I'm not up here a proponent of the 50s.
Okay, all right.
Goodness gracious.
So that's fair enough.
Yes.
Go ahead, sir.
No, Bob Cousy didn't dribble with his left hand. He literally had to.
No.
But you do have to evaluate, to Chris' point, you got to evaluate guys within their era. Because if we just say, because you can only compete against who you compete against. Bill Russell's one of the 8 greatest, maybe one of the 4 greatest players ever, despite the fact that he wouldn't be dominant today. Because in his era, he was unbelievable. So you do have to do it like that. But I just.